Well, I'm very excited because I'm about to interview on Skype none other than the legendary rock guitarist Billy Duffy of the Cult. Now, as every man and his dog knows, the Cult are headlining Ramblin Man Festival at Maidstone in Kent on Sunday the 1st of July, and it is going to be mega. Billy, obviously you played hundreds of gigs and hundreds of festivals, but you know, this is quite an important one for a number of reasons.
Well, I mean, mainly, having lived abroad for a long time and visited the UK quite a bit, but not really lived in England for several years, you get a little bit nostalgic, Brits abroad, and particularly for those heady days of summer. I'm looking forward to it. It's our only gig of the year in the UK, and it should be fun. I like to support the rock, being, of the generation that grew up with kind of rock, and having seen rock when it wasn't a bunch of fat, bald old men, when they were actually dangerous young men doing very naughty things. It means something to me. It's where I'm from, and I'm looking forward to playing. It's nice to see that there's a rock festival. That is unashamedly a rock festival.
You intimated to me that you were, the fanboy Billy in you was very, very keen on perhaps trying to catch Mott the Hoople. Is that going to happen, and why are you keen?
I grew up listening to Mott the Hoople. I read Ian Hunter's book, Diary of a Rock and Roll Star, and when I was like a teenage boy. I just read it and went, oh, I could do that. Tour America, meet people like David Bowie and Iggy Pop, and have fun and get paid for it. But I didn't want to be Ian Hunter. I never wanted to be a singer or a frontman. I never wanted to be the centre of attention ever. I would rather just be slightly to the right or left, depending on your perspective. So Mott the Hoople have always been very special to me. In their imperfection, I think it would fair to say that they were always a bit of a flawed band who nearly broke up. Their stories kind of tragic and heroic and amazing at the same time, where Bowie wrote, gave them all the young dudes. They just appealed to me. There's something about their imperfection, but it was so real, and when they locked together and it was good, it was like the best thing in the world. Yeah, I never saw them back in the day. Much to my great disappointment. I had tickets for them when Mick Ronson was in the band at the very end, and they cancelled the tour, and I still possess the ticket.
How do you approach the set list for something like Ramblin Man?
The thing with the Cult is we've always, we understand that a degree of our appeal to the audience is nostalgia. I like to describe it as nostalgia with a lowercase n. It's not a bad thing. We don't wallow in it. We're happy and honoured to play the old songs. There'd be a lynching if we didn't play She Sells Sanctuary in England. And, we're fortunate that we're happy to do so. However, it's nice, I think, for the fans, particularly the real hardcore Cult fans. I think they enjoy some of the new stuff. So we sprinkle a few new songs in there to mix it up, just to illustrate, hey, we wrote some great songs in the 1980s, and these ones aren't too bad that we wrote 2 years ago either.
Ian I've met, and he's always been charming on a couple of occasions, but he does scare the shit out of me. He is a live wire, he is a force of nature, and I think he scares the shit out of promoters and security alike. Is he an angel with a broken wing? Is he a stormy little earth shaker? Is he a wild-hearted son? What is he?
Ian Astbury is all of those things. He's like family to me. We have a relationship that's much more familial than anything else. I can't even quantify it. We just have an understanding. There's kind of like a telepathy. When you start, you put everything you've got into creating this thing, and we were one of the very fortunate bands who actually made it, and are even more fortunate to still be making new music, touring and playing, and even more fortunate that we're not really that overweight and we still have our own hair.
Yeah.
So the dynamic with me and Ian really hasn't changed. We got together in 1983 because we just had an idea that the two of us would make a good team, and throughout all the ups and downs and all the things that have happened, the classic combination of lead singer and guitar player, that formula works. It's true today as it was, 40 years ago. Yeah, I think it's good that you sing is a little dangerous.
Yes.
I think it's important. I think he's a little dangerous. Ian's a loose cannon, and that's what makes it good. I like that fact. I think his edge. He is what he is. He's one of a dying breed. One of the things about the Cult, I think that some people find appealing is that for whatever blunders we might have made in our career, aesthetically, musically, whatever decisions, we've clearly got more right than we've got wrong. Yeah. But we've all made mistakes, but they're genuine mistakes. And we're just kind of guys who are searching and seeking and still trying to make rock music relevant. And by that, we, by any means possible, probably the difference between the Cult and a lot of other bands who are, these days saying we're rock, they tend to, in my opinion, wallow in the era of long hair and flares. It's not, and in the Cult, we have a lot of that kind of punk rock DNA. Everybody knows we could just play the old songs and people would be really happy, everybody apart from the Cult.
I did hear you talking about a time when you did actually, the two of you, have writer's block and you couldn't come up with any songs or any riffs or anything that you thought was worthwhile. I mean, is that a fear of yours?
It happens. It happens. I mean, most bands have creative problems. I mean, great music. I mean, one instance, I remember when kind of the grunge, I mean, that's a bit deprecating term, but when a lot of the bands came out of Seattle, I remember, hearing, the first Pearl Jam album, Alice in Chains, Nirvana, Soundgarden, thinking, this stuff's pretty important. This sounds pretty good. And we'd kind of reached the natural end of a cycle with the band, with the Cult, where we'd been at it about 10 years straight with about 3 weeks off. Yeah. And we were just out of steam. And I just thought, I just felt that others, that we needed to be heard. But we've worked through it, and that's just a testament to probably keeping a very simple approach, which is with me and Ian. It's getting our gut instinct generally is right.
One of the questions I was going to ask you is how long can you go without picking up a guitar and fiddling around?
I'm quite lazy. Guilty. I'm quite a lazy guitar player. I always was, and which is why I'm, you get what you get, and part of me used to feel that if I didn't overdo the playing, I might possibly get more interesting ideas as I stumble around the fretboard creatively. As I've gotten to be older, the last, say, 10 years, I've been a lot more open to jamming with other musicians, and I've been fortunate enough to play with a lot of my peers and a few legends. And that's given me a new lease of life because it opened me up to many other ways of doing stuff. So I just used to think with that punk rock thing that if you knew too much, it would taint what you're doing. Mm-hmm. I don't need to know how, to play a Led Zeppelin song when I'm 15. I need to write songs.
Let's imagine that I'm a young 16-year-old and I'm in a band. We've written a song and the lead singer says, okay, we need a solo here. How would you advise someone to go about doing a guitar solo? What did you get in the mindset?
No, that's a really good... I mean, my advice has always been, try and complement the song. Ultimately, you're all there to serve the song. And that song might be best served by, playing the guitar riff really loud and having very few vocals. Or the song might be best served by having very little guitar and a lot of piano. It's trying to find the essence of the song. And if the song requires... I just happen to have grown up in the sort of 70s where... the bands I've referred to, Mick Ralph's, Phil Manzanera for Roxy Music, Mick Ronson with Bowie, Thin Lizzy, Bebop Deluxe, all those bands, the guitar signatures were hooks. to an extent, so was the drumming, and it was kind of a mixture of like glam rock mixed up. You know, make a guitar solo that you can whistle, try and help the song, try and bring something in, and understand that if the most people can sing or talk, not everybody can play an instrument, so don't be indulgent.
You referred to earlier this strange country and western guitar, which everybody associates with you as the Gretsch, the white falcon. Could you just tell us a little bit about, I mean, Ian Asprey's called it a man's guitar. It's not the easiest thing to play, apparently, and when you first picked it up, it wasn't the best sounding guitar, but it certainly looked good.
The one I could afford to buy, and I actually pretty much cashed in all my chips, everything I'd saved up when I joined the band prior to the Cult, which was Theatre of Hate, and I bought a Gretsch, and it just sounded basically terrible, but as it looked so amazing that it just sort of empowered me, and I thought, oh well, I can kind of hide behind this big white guitar. But yeah, the Gretsch was just a challenge. It's like it's the equivalent of driving a school bus rather than driving a car, if I can make that kind of analogy. It requires concentration, but the payoffs are great because it has such a unique sound. But you can't do a lot of like the shreddy, fast, noodly guitar on it. I do a little bit for fun and played around with it on a couple of songs as best I could, but you know, it's a guitar built for comfort, not for speed.
The Gretsch was synonymous with She Sells Sanctuary, and that, you know, was perhaps certainly the song that established you and gave you an enormous step up and moved you into a different league. Could you just tell us a little bit about how that riff came about? Was it a bit of late night noodling? Did you jot it down on a pad next to your bed and then wake up in the morning? I dreamt it. You know, how did it happen?
I honestly can't remember how She Sells Sanctuary came about. I really don't know. I know we were playing around as a band because there was only one guitar player, a bass player and a drummer to make the noise, plus Ian. I was trying to find ways of using drone strings and things to make the guitar sound like it was playing two parts. Mm-hmm. And I think Sanctuary was from that era. Other guitar players that had gone before me had definitely done that. Stuart Adamson, when he was in the Skids. There's lots of stuff, you know, but there are many examples of it. It's just, I just ended up, the way I write, I just kind of hear something in my head and I work it out on the guitar. It just comes out. I'm not a studious guy. I don't write anything down. I just wait for it to appear.
Okay, fair enough.
And that's how Sanctuary came about. I really don't know. I can't remember a moment. On an amusing note, I don't really think Ian liked it at the time. I might have bullied him into doing it, but
he probably still doesn't like it. I don't know.
Probably. No, you know what though? There's never a complaint for us to play. There's no grumbling off for about playing Sanctuary or Rain or The Phoenix. A lot of the stuff off the Love album, we really enjoy playing as a band still.
Fame is a funny thing. It's little discussed with any honesty. Did it ever mess with your head in the early days?
Fame? Yeah, I think everybody goes through it. Like it being, you know, your ego gets a little out of check. You know, it's difficult, but you know, because you're a bit like a performing seal. You know, people want you to be. They encourage the traits, like, you know, basically you're like a little pirate ship going around the world, doing your business and trying to have as much plunder as you can, and then people want that to kind of be put in a box and press open the box, out you get, be naughty, get back in the box, behave yourself. And I think those lines get a little blurred, particularly when money gets involved. When bands get enough money, individual band guys get enough money that perhaps they don't need each other. Because at the beginning, you need each other. You're sleeping in the same bed, 4 of you in a room. When you get money, it can, you know, you can go a couple of ways with it, particularly if you've never had any.
Billy, it's you don't drink anymore, but I was wondering, what do you ask for on your rider at Ramblin Man?
The thing that I didn't even understand about riders is that they're quite a lengthy document that specify a room with a door that locks, or a mirror, or a four chairs, a sofa. It's not just about having the M&Ms taken out by a Nubian slave boy.
Yeah.
Tea's on there.
Yeah.
I like a bit of toast. When I'm in England, I like a bit of tea and toast, packet of cheese and onion. Probably some Twiglets and definitely some Smarties.
And is there already the beginnings of a new album? Have you been working on any new material?
Yeah, we're always kind of at it. We're trying. We haven't actually been near a studio yet, but we're in the kind of creating phase. But yeah, there was talk of doing some new music. Maybe not an album. We don't really overdo it. I think with the Cult, one of the things me and Ian agree on is more like when we feel we've got good enough songs. It's quality, not quantity. There's no real advantage to just churning out an album unless you feel that it's very strong, like we did with Hidden City. We felt, that album was pretty much as good as it could be given the circumstances. So, new music's is definitely part of the Cult's future. I don't think that'll ever go away. Whether it's an entire album, I don't know. It could be a series of singles. You might be, we might end up giving music away. I don't know. I mean, the way things are going.
How about a double EP?
Wouldn't that be an album?
You're spot on there, Billy, spot on. And that's a good note for us to end this on. It's many thanks for taking the time to talk to us here at Ramblin Man, Billy. It's been a great pleasure, and we do appreciate your time very much indeed. And to quote Nigel Tufnell, Billy, do a good show, all right?
I'll do my very best. I'll see you on the 1st of July, mate.
Nice one.